let's talk energy auditing. So if you were to talk about the needs, intentions, and interests in energy auditing, do you want to have this conversation with me, please?
Okay. So I guess some of the tensions or needs, I mean, the university has done great things. A lot of you have awesome expertise and have helped reduce the footprint and the energy bill of campus a lot. But I think one of the things is behavioral issues, turning the lights off, not leaving things on, and how we can translate that to, I think the biggest thing for students is, because like these big buildings are actually good because they're big and you can control them a lot on campus, but from the student side, like my apartment leaks energy like a sieve, and I guess taking that and changing students' behaviors and working with some of the tenants and how the university can translate that to the students and to the tenants, and also just be a leader in the world with the universities with our energy bills.
So let's talk behaviors. So how do you change behavior and energy? Anyone, everyone can pipe in and see how it rolls here.
Well, from my previous hat with capital planning development and my esteemed colleague Dan, the operations side of campus has looked at reducing its energy footprint for a while, but some small things that we've taken a proactive approach are, when we have a new building constructed, we can make some major leaps and bounds. And we started implementing LEED as a strategy to drive our goal setting higher than what code requires. And everybody knows that code is the worst possible building you can build, right? Okay, so at the university level, we've taken a proactive step to say we're going to do better than that. And we have percentages and benchmarks that we look at for each and every building. The buildings that we're not doing that with, though, like not a new construction or major renovation, one thing we've done is gone through most of the campus buildings and started to install occupancy sensors, for lighting controls, for things on fume hoods, so that when the researcher or the activity is not actively using that fume hood, it dials down the air volume flows. You mentioned a lot about how energy intensive our lab buildings are, and exactly right. It's really, really hard, especially when you can't turn off that fume hood, because the research that fume hood is supporting needs to run 24/7. Could be 3, 4, 5 years. So there are different things that we can't do, but the things we can, we are doing. So we're trying to control occupancy sensors when faculty or offices or classrooms are vacant. We dial back the heat and cooling. So one thing we might want to touch on and make sure is that, do we have a plan where all of our buildings have covered that? And can we take a look at that as a strategy in FP&M? I was just with the ABC for FP&M yesterday, and Bill noted in our meeting, this particular room we were in didn't have the occupancy sensor. So we need to maybe go look at some of our buildings. I think you're bringing up a really good point. The other point you were making, though, is what we don't control, which is behaviors. How can we encourage and change behaviors? And where you live off campus, what do landlords, what is their role in this? Because you as a student, you probably pay your energy bill, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah. And so does your landlord care that you're throwing all your heat out your window?
A little bit.
A little bit?
There's no incentive.
Wow. I didn't rent from that landlord when I was here. I can tell you that. But are there some things that your group could do to start educating your peers and maybe other landlords on campus or off campus about what your expectations are? For example, in our buildings, in office space and classrooms, we have a set standard for heating and cooling. So in the summer months, the temperature gauge should read between X and X in the building, and in the winter it's raised, or it's lowered a little bit. So in the summer it's a little bit warmer, and winter's a little cooler, so we don't have to heat and cool as much, right? Are students willing to layer up so that we can adjust those temperatures ranges to be greater? So say, instead of the classroom being 68 degrees in the winter, can we go down to 65 and everybody wears an extra sweater or sweatshirt or their coat? Is that comfortable? Can you still learn in that environment? I think those are some of the questions that you could start to ask each other and then take it to faculty and staff on campus. What are they comfortable with? And then you can challenge yourselves at home. What do I set my apartment at? And how can I start to teach my friends or my peers or people I'm talking with about what's comfortable and how can we be more comfortable? So if you go to Europe, a lot of Europeans are used to layering. You know, they wear cardigans like this, so when the room is hot, they take it off, and when it's cold, they can put it on, and so on and so forth. So that starts getting into the changing of human behaviors. And some things we can do to change behaviors is use the occupancy sensors, because then they don't even know, they're not aware of those things. But what can you do of the things you are aware of and what you are in control of?
So Dan and then Frank.
Yeah, just one thing quickly. Also, the way a building is designed can encourage you to behave in a certain way. So if you take like an education building where you come into some of the spaces, the knob light is great. And so if the lights are not on, you don't immediately think of flipping the switch because it's there. So those are some of the things that we can do. The other thing is that when you pay for something, it tends to control your behavior. And this is not so much the student, but that if we get into metering, where the departments and colleges and different people have ownership of different things, then they would take the ownership for educating. And when people are educated and understand the impact of that the money we save in certain areas can be reinvested or can keep your tuition down or can do a whole host of things, I think that would begin to make an impact. So it's about, education. It is taking advantage of a few things like metering, things that we can do infrastructurally when we design buildings, or also just the way we design the building so when you come into there, it meets your need and does not immediately lead you to think that you need to either switch this on or switch the other one on. So,
Yeah, Frank and Tom.
2 points. One quickly is I lived in a building called Agricultural Hall for over 25 years. The only way we control things is either to open the windows or shut them. So that's the old system. Those buildings do present a challenge because they're tough to climatize. But I wanted to call attention to a group called Focus UW. Focus UW it's now a student group on campus. They're trying to work.
Oh, there they are.
There they are. That's a group that's trying to bring landlords and tenants together. We're working with them, and I hope we get this off next spring, but to do an energy contest with Focus UW. It's going to present a plan to that living unit that decreases their, either that minimizes or decreases their heating bill over the course of a month. I see this as a real opportunity to, as people register for that contest, we'll have the names of tenants, we'll have the names of landlords. We can do outreach opportunities to both tenants and landlords, issue tips on how you can control your energy, talk to landlords about proper heating and window treatments. So I'm really excited about this group that are on campus, and I'd like to at least encourage you to support them.
Thank you. Yeah, Tom, and then we want to swing it back and hear from more students. Yeah.
So behavior change is not an area that I have a lot of expertise in, but I'll offer this. When you want to change behavior, economics, dollars and cents is probably the primary motivator. How does that come to play? Well, one of the most difficult things about being on this university is that no department pays their energy bills. Our energy bills are paid cumulatively by the Department of Administration. So any of the savings that you talked about that accrue, accrue to the state, not to the university. So the incentives, again, behavior change being driven by economics, don't work well on campus. Not to say that there's not a lot of things that are happening, a lot of good things that are done. I think the other avenue, and again, remember, I'm not an expert in behavior change, but I know in my classes we watched a number of the Volkswagen fun theory videos that are out there. So if you haven't looked them up, Google fun theory, and it is how do you get people to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do, and Volkswagen's answer is you make it fun. So how do you get people to walk up the stairs out of the subway as opposed to take the escalator? They made the stairs a musical keyboard. And amazingly, like 80% of the people decided they wanted to walk up the stairs because it was fun and they would play music going up instead of taking the escalator. There are a number of examples that they have. So, getting to your point, focusing on behavior change, I'd say focus on economics and really being able to tell a good economic story or make it fun. And that helps generate the kinds of behavior change that you're looking for.
Anyone have any comments that you've heard so far? Then going over to Jen, yeah.
Well, first of all, my name is Kevin Engelbert, and I'm the Vice Chair of the ASM Sustainability Committee. One thing that we wanted to work on was a green fund for next year. And so if you're talking about economics and you're talking about changing behaviors, green fund can come into play there. A lot of other universities within the UW system already have a green fund. For example, UW La Crosse, which pays about $7 a year, which equates to something like $60,000 for them. We were talking about doing something about $2 to $4. If you did $4, that'd be $168,000. If you did $7 at UW La Crosse, it's $294,000. I know Aaron said earlier that $1,500 is a lot for a student. Imagine how much $294,000 is. I think this is something feasible that we can do. And I think some of these projects that can come from this green fund could be for behavior issues, giving monetary benefits to students that live off campus to reduce their heating and cooling impact. So I think that's an avenue that we can pursue next year, since most of us are going to be on this So I'm really excited about that. We talked about it. We had a sustainability fair on Saturday. We had several institutes were there. Everybody seemed excited about it, and I think that's something tangible that we can do right away.
Yeah, Jen, you have your hand up on the screen, and then we're going to start moving into the next item.
Sure, and I'll keep my comments brief in that case. I'm not an energy expert, particularly in the built environment, so we don't have to worry about the talk down to portion of during qualifiers at least. But much of what has already been discussed today is analogous to the same choices that I deal with around food in terms of societal choices and what they consume related to pieces such as increased health costs, dealing with childhood diabetes and obesity and such. And that really comes down to, in every sector of what we're talking about this afternoon, when the rubber hits the road, it is that behavioral change piece that will drive any success that we might have. So when I think about that, the economics, certainly I agree with Tom, drives it in a corporate institutional sense. At a personal level, I think also part of that is awareness. And much that we can do to improve awareness of the choices that we're making and the long-term implications of those choices, whether it be like Jonathan Patz has talked about to this group and others in the past, the choices related to our carbon footprint, long-term health of society. So how do we increase that awareness? One piece that I would put out there that I've seen very successful, and Tom might be able to speak to this more from the business world, would be what I would call a student sustainability challenge. Make it a game, make it fun. The corporate world has done this in many ways. We have Cool Choices based here in Madison. Johnson Controls certainly has an employee sustainability challenge. An online fun game where you have departments or dorms or living units or however you want to organize yourself, competing against each other in a sustainability challenge around simple things, turning the lights off, reducing the thermostat, putting on a sweater instead of relying on campus to be 75 degrees. And make it fun, increase awareness from that standpoint in a way that may drive some of the economic advantage in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, Sabrina, and we're gonna have one last swap here, and then we'll move over. Yeah. the next
Good. Well, it sounds like we're all kind of thinking the same ideas, and I just kind of want to reiterate that too. Like having these opportunities, like we just had Campus Conservation Nationals, which is an energy and can be water reducing competition within the dorms, where when you first come as a student, you get an opportunity to compete, which you guys are here because you're competitive, you know, you want to do well, and you're also, well, we want to win, right? We want to be on top. We're Badgers. And so we through this competition, we're able to bring awareness of how you interact with your energy usage. And you get that opportunity right away on campus for those that are in the dorms. And then expanding that, like Frank said, into apartments and the houses that are being rented on campus. And having that competition to get people to think about ways that they can reduce to win. But taking it the extra step too, and bringing that into the classroom. You know, you're here to learn. And learning about how our campus works, like where our energy comes from. I mean, how many people know how we're heated? I mean, I bet some of you know, maybe all of you know. But not everyone knows that. I mean, we're heated with steamed heat, and we're cooled with chilled water, and it's not how your home is heated, you know, when you came from. And so understanding where your energy inputs are coming and how you interact with those resources is helpful. And the OS is trying to build that into some classes we're working with different courses to get that into the curriculum, so you understand how campus is operated and how we use our campus resources, how we personally interact with it, and how others interact with the resources we have on campus. And getting the opportunity to learn that in the classroom and connect that to what you do in real life is the opportunity that we're trying to create. And I think that we could also try and provide some resources like how to do an energy audit in your own home. If you can find that resource, and then if you're interested in that, then you can actually evaluate how your apartment is working and be able to hopefully make reductions that make an influence on your economic, how much you're paying for your heat, and also just your energy resource management. So.
Any other comments that you want to add here, Luke? Are we getting at some of these tensions and needs and trade-offs? And is it good? Is it helpful? Okay, yeah, you tell us. You know, can you dance to it or not? That is helpful. Yeah.
I just want to share one neat thing that we have that we're going to implement on campus the next year or so. Developing a classroom space utilization program. And if you've walk through the hallways, and we always have a struggle of trying to find classrooms for the students. And then you'll walk by and they'll all be empty and they'll all be being air conditioned or won't heated. We're trying to optimize our classroom space utilization on campus to drive down all the sustainability metrics for student credit hours, including energy. So we're going to pilot that. Next year we're going to work on the model for it, and we're going to pilot it in the fall 1 year from now. So I think that's pretty cool.
Space utilization. All be
We're
legacy
looking
will
for a
be
PhD candidate or
Yeah.
master's student. Think about it.
Let's shift into the next issue in the interest of time here, and that's